Welcome, everyone. I'm Libby Karstensen, Vedic Master for the Chopra Center for Wellbeing and your host today. I'm so pleased to be with you as we sit down with one of the most prolific, best-selling authors and thought leaders of our time, Deepak Chopra. Thousands of you from around the globe have joined our call, which is so thrilling and will bring fantastic energy to this conversation as we talk about the pervasive condition of stress and struggle so many of us face and what Deepak considers to be the epidemic of our time. That we believe, and our culture constantly reinforces, that to deserve good things and experience success in life, we have to work harder and harder. What's become clear to Deepak and to all of us at the Chopra Center, and what must have resonated with you to facilitate you joining the call today, is that while this work harder mentality is deeply ingrained in our culture, it's not only not getting us where we want to go and not helping us have the joyful experience we want, it's actually the very thing that blocks us from it. Of course, the concept of earned success, or perhaps more accurately, hard-earned success, that has permeated our culture and our consciousness is nothing new. Nearly a century ago, Franklin D. Roosevelt was quoted as saying, "Happiness lies not in the mere possession of money, it lies in the joy of achievement and the thrill of creative effort." So almost as far back as we look, really, we've connected happiness and fulfillment with striving for earned success. And to some extent, that's been a good thing. It's a value that many of us hold dear. But the missing piece that I'm so excited to introduce to you today is that you can measure your earned success in life in any currency you choose. And when you choose to measure it not by the blood, sweat, and tears that you expend getting there, but by how effortlessly and joyfully you create the life you want, that's when everything changes. Your quality of life, your sense of fulfillment, and your overall well-being. And while we're talking about success in these more holistic terms, I just want to make sure I'm also being clear that we aren't asking you to give up your quest for success or any of its material spoils. When we talk about living a life of ease, we're not saying that you have to adjust your expectations or give up your Mercedes. In fact, if a Mercedes is one of those things that you really want in life, we want you to be able to fulfill that desire. The question is simply, how will you do it? With more effort, stress, struggle, and frustration? Or are you ready to consider that there really is a better, more effortless, and infinitely more effective way? And with that, I'd like to introduce you to Deepak Chopra. He's here with us today to shed light on the 7 spiritual laws or principles you can use to fulfill your desires in life more effectively and with less stress and struggle than ever before. Evidence that nature itself follows these laws. A new and truer definition of success to work from. And what to do when things don't go as planned. Because even when you're following this more effective method of getting what you want in life, you will still experience setbacks. You can still expect curveballs, but you don't have to let them take you off course. Deepak will also share examples of how these principles have worked in his own life, and he'll reveal the one most critical thing you can do right now, today, to begin immediately experiencing the sense of well-being that comes from doing less and having more. I also have something very special to share with all of you joining us that I don't think you're going to want to miss. So be sure to stay with us through to the end of our event so you don't miss that special announcement. Now, without further delay, Deepak Chopra. So Deepak, welcome and thank you for being here today. We're joined by thousands listening from all corners of the globe, and it's an honor to have this time with you.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
So today we're focusing on the pervasive condition of stress and struggle. So many of us experience this. And while most of us feel a deep yearning for a life filled with peace, passion, and beauty, we instead feel frustrated and overwhelmed. Can you speak to the underlying causes of this paradox and the price that we pay as a result of it?
Stress is a learned response, actually. When a baby is born, it has no stress because a baby is just pure existence, pure awareness, and pure being. Stress starts to happen when we start to experience what we interpret as a physical or emotional or psychological threat. So that's how modern scientists define stress. Physical or emotional or psychological threat, which then results in a whole phenomenon that can only be called physiological or biological chaos, with adrenaline going up and cortisol going up and inflammation happening in the body, and also other things like weakening of the immune system and predisposition to heart disease, diabetes, cardiovascular illness in general. Now it turns out that stress is also related to autoimmune illnesses and also to some types of cancer. And the fact is, all these things are going up in our society because our society is basically reinforcing stress every moment in people's consciousness. The way our society does that is that society, or what I call personally the hypnosis of social conditioning, is always looking at something outside ourselves for fulfillment. So it's that job, it's that relationship, it's that situation, it's that amount of money, etc. So we have become a society which, because it both individually and socially reinforces the idea that there's some external goal that is going to give us fulfillment or happiness. And that if we don't get that external goal, then we are going to be unhappy. And so there is a lot of what can be called, for simple statement, there's a lot of what is called performance anxiety, and there's a lot of peer pressure in that performance anxiety. So that's why it's become pervasive. And then, and the short-term effect of this stress is what I've already told you, all kinds of illnesses. But as a society, stress is the cause of everything else. It's the cause of economic disparities. It's the cause of conflict in the world. It's the cause of, if you really want to understand, it's even the cause of how we create climate change and eco-destruction and go to war, social unrest, revolutions, terrorism, mechanized death. These are the byproducts of stress.
What's interesting is, talking about how the work harder mentality is not only not helping us create the life we want, but it's in fact blocking us from this very goal. What are some clear signs when we know we're moving in the right direction?
I'll tell you about the clear signs, but what I was reminded of also is that in the wisdom traditions of the East, in Vedanta, stress is not defined the way I defined it. Stress is that which interferes with the spontaneous flow of nature's intelligence as it moves from the unmanifest into the manifest. So the manifest world is actually an expression of the unmanifest. The unmanifest is, for, again, to use spiritual terms, soul, collective soul, universal spirit. Those are domains of the unmanifest. And to some extent, even our mind, intellect, and ego dwell in the unmanifest because you can't touch them or see them or, smell or taste them. It's the unmanifest that is constantly becoming the manifest, the invisible that is becoming the visible. And it's actually doing so very spontaneously in all of nature, In every seed is the promise of thousands of forests. Everything starts with, the unmanifest. And the purest level of unmanifest is pure potential. So if left to itself, the universe is evolving. The universe is self-regulating. The universe is recursive. It repeats previous patterns, but then it moves into new patterns, like a spiral. And our best way to manifest anything would be to have a subtle intention and remain in our ground state. Because in our ground state is all the creativity, all the synchronicity, all the power of intention. It's all there in the ground state, because our ground state is the ground state of the universe. It's one ground state. So the signs then of being in that state, first is there is inner calm and centeredness in the midst of chaos and uncertainty. There is the power of intention. There's the state of flow. There's lightness of being. There's absence of anxiety. There's detachment from outcome, because you have an inner, for lack of a better word, faith or trust that the invisible you is going to manufacture the visible whatever you want. There is synchronicity, there is meaningful coincidence, what spiritual traditions call the state of grace. Religious people say God is looking after me, and ordinary skeptical people say I have good luck. So it's all the same thing. That's what happens.
So some of the principles you were just discussing, the 7 spiritual laws of success, law of intention and desire, law of least effort, law of pure potentiality.
Well, the 7 spiritual laws are actually the 7 principles through which nature moves from the unmanifest to the manifest. You can look at any biological organism, whether it's a flower or an acorn becoming an oak tree, or a bird flying in the sky, or a baby unfolding in its potential before it gets, bamboozled by everybody else or hijacked. Or look at the cells in our body. They're all operating. Every cell in your body, there are trillions of cells, but every cell in your body comes from one cell. The fertilized ovum, or zygote that we call it. So that one cell that you started out with before your father and mother went to a picnic, that one cell created all the cells in your body. So we can say that cell was a pluripotential cell, which means all possibilities. From that one cell came your fingernails, your hair follicles, your eyes, your brain, your liver, your kidney. So these days we call them stem cells. Stem cells are pluripotential cells, which means you can coax them to do what you want if you know how to do it. Technically, that's what all the research is right now. So our cells come from a field of pure potentiality. Our cells are constantly in the stream of giving and taking, in that, your stomach cells are receiving nutrients. They're making all kinds of products from those nutrients. Those nutrients are going to other parts of your body, liver, etc., where they're being transformed into enzymes and so on. Every cell is in the stream of giving and receiving. Your stomach cells are giving nutrients to the body. Your liver cell is taking in those, manufacturing others, getting rid of toxins. Your brain cells are receiving that, so you can experience the world. So it's all one system in which each part of the system is in the stream of giving and receiving. If you stop that, then that's called, If you stop that in your blood, it'll coagulate and you'll get a heart attack and die. If you stop that anywhere, the cell will lose its flow, so to speak, and ultimately get diseased or die. Similarly, every cell is making choices. That's the law of, in a sense, karma, where those choices are not only for itself. The choices are for the whole organism. The stomach cell is not saying, what should I do with this food for myself? Or what does the brain do for me, or whatever. Every choice is made for the rest of the body, because each cell has a memory of wholeness. Every cell operates through the law of intention and desire, because every cell must have a different intention that somehow complements all the other intentions in the body. Okay, cells work with the law of least effort, spontaneously. You're not trying to beat your heart. If you do, then you'll mess it up. You're not trying to breathe. If you do, you'll mess it up. You're not trying to make antibodies. You do. Hormones, you do. It's because cells function with effortless spontaneity. Every cell is detached from its outcome. Okay, and every cell has a purpose. So those 7 laws actually are inherent in all of nature, as nature moves from unmanifest to manifest. I've always wondered, why can't we be just like ourselves? Because we are ourselves. And the reason we can't be like ourselves is we are always, because we have these 5 senses, we are always looking outside, and we're not looking inside from where it all happens. Life unfolds from the inside outside. Cells become organs become the body becomes social interactions, personal relationships, and then if you're paying attention, we realize that actually the whole universe is acting through us. The whole universe, everything. But that's what those 7 laws are. In a sense, they're the key elements that go into manifestation of the visible world from the invisible world.
I live the 7 spiritual laws. Like it's changed my life.
Good.
And I've seen it also change the lives of many other people.
Mm-hmm.
So one question is, and you were talking about how if we're looking for success outside of ourselves, we're destined for failure.
Mm-hmm.
But what is success in the term of self-referred? What does that look like?
Self-referred success simply means that you're not looking for any help from outside circumstances to achieve your goals and to express love and compassion, which should be part of the experience of success, to experience joy or happiness. So when we define success as the progressive realization of worthy goals, the ability to love and have compassion, and to get in touch with our creative source, which is the creative source of the entire universe, then success should be a given. I think there are 4 areas that human beings seek success in. They want to be healthy, so that's one area which is very important, to experience good health and well-being, a joyful, energetic body, a loving, compassionate heart, a reflective, silent mind, lightness of being. These are all elements of well-being. The second area that people want to experience success is material abundance. They want a comfortable life, they want a good career, they want ego satisfactions. There's a role for ego satisfactions, which means fortune and fame, because unless you've been there and done that, you'll always be looking for it. So that's the second area that people want success in. The third area that people seek success is in relationships, in the area of love, romance, marriage, sexual expression, but love in all its forms, love for whatever is important to you. And the fourth area that people want to achieve success is in higher consciousness. So that starts with intuition and insight and the unleashing of imagination and creativity. But then it moves into higher realms of consciousness, which, for lack of a better word, are, different stages of enlightenment. So you move from ego identity to archetypal identity and ultimately universal identity. You experience your soul, your collective archetypal soul, and ultimately the universal spirit, or what people call God.
What are some practices that we can put in place today?
Well, the four areas I mentioned are very important, okay, because when they're integrated in your life, then in a sense you have everything that you want. I think a daily commitment, for me that daily commitment starts with joyful, energetic body, loving, compassionate heart, reflective, silent, clear mind, and lightness of being. That's actually the most important, because then what I do is my choices are automatically influenced by that. Whether it's the choice to eat food, how will it affect those things, four things, or the choice to rest or get good sleep. So I think it starts with very basic things. Make sure you get good sleep. Make sure you meditate. Make sure you move. Now, for me, that could be a daily practice of yoga or going to the gym or just walking. I make sure that I do that. And, if I'm in a big city like New York City, I get actually a trainer or a yoga teacher. Not that I need them, but it's kind of a commitment. It's accountability. So, actually, I usually learn something new anyway. Okay, even from regular yoga teachers that I find through my hotel concierge. So that's a commitment. It's an accountability. So for me, then going back, sleep, meditation, movement, which for me is yoga or exercise or walking, but definitely all those three if I can. The fourth is food. And, I tend towards a plant-based diet, although, I never grew up as a vegetarian. I grew up culturally, from a North Indian family where there was a lot of meat eating, etc. But over the years, I've started to cultivate a plant-based diet, and I will still have occasionally some fish or something like that. But the diet is non-toxic, which means it doesn't have, it's not manufactured in a factory, or it doesn't have antibiotics or steroids. It's not processed. It's not refined sugar or anything like that. It doesn't have petroleum products, which most of the food these days has. Insecticides, pesticides, petroleum products. They're Agent Orange, things that we used in the killing fields of Vietnam, we're putting in our body. When you put food in your body that's damaging, it messes up what is called the microbiome, which is 90% of your DNA, which is bacterial DNA in your gut, etc. That then puts out chemicals that interfere with the human genome. And I'm now totally convinced that the diet has a lot to do with the modern epidemics of cancer and heart disease and diabetes and autoimmune illnesses. And then I drink a lot of water. So, those are my 6 pillars of good health: sleep, meditation, movement, food, water, and one more, healthy emotions. I don't have time for resentments or anger or frustration or, any of those emotions. It's a total waste of time. So focus on love, compassion, joy, equanimity. Those are the pillars of what I just said, that list, are the pillars of good health. When you're feeling good health, then other things become very easy. Okay, and then you're feeling so good, you make other people feel good, etc. You're able to accomplish your goals. I do practice, of course, the 7 spiritual laws, but that comes to me automatically.
So that's really helpful. And I think if we can start practicing those things that you've recommended, that we can start to experience success. And I think instead of experiencing struggle, we can then start to see when things come up as opportunity. So talk a little bit how we can shift from when things come up in our lives, how instead of moving into reaction, we can move into a state of response.
Yeah, reaction is always ego-based. So anytime you think you're going to react, especially with anger or fear or hostility or guilt or depression, I think the first thing is to just press the pause button at that moment. So instead of reacting, observe your reaction to react. It's not difficult, because every time you react, there's a bodily response. And if you can just stop and observe the bodily response, maybe even take a few deep breaths and smile, and then proceed with love, compassion, awareness, you break the automatic response. But you can also ask in every situation, what's the opportunity here? What's the creative possibility here? What's a higher level of response here? What can I do in this situation that actually I can, I don't see it as a problem, but as a gift. Because there is a gift in every situation. That could be anything, getting an illness, suffering a loss, having a business go down, fail, or risk that you took that didn't work, even crisis. If you look deep enough, there's something you can get out of it, which doesn't mean that, you won't suffer or what you won't feel pain. But if you don't suppress the pain, if you don't suppress if you don't deny your suffering, but you're also looking for the seed of a greater benefit, you'll find it.
Do you have an example from your life where you've moved into that space?
Well, the best example is I missed a flight from Singapore to Melbourne, and I had lots of time, so I wrote the 7 spiritual laws of success. That was written, by the way, on a plane ride. I had time in Singapore. I was thinking about it. So how can we put the principles of nature? And, and I finished the book on that flight. It took me just a few hours, and it's, affected millions of people.
That's amazing, by the way. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, that's the origin of the book. Then afterwards, when I'd written my notes, I came back to the U.S., and I was in Las Vegas, and I, for the first time, gave a lecture on that from my notes. And there was a woman there, Janet Mills. She said, there's a book here. So I said, okay, write it. And she played back my lecture to me. We sat down, edited it, and there was a book. My regular publisher, which was Random House, was very upset because the book became an instant #1 New York Times bestseller. Wasn't planned. It was the perfect example of the law of least effort.
Wow. That's amazing. And that idea, too, of synchronicity, which I know has played such a huge role.
Synchronicity, that is another thing. You should notice, if you actually start noticing, everything is a coincidence. Because, when's the last time things happen exactly as planned?
Never.
They never. So, and everything is a coincidence. But, if you're thinking of something, there is a coincidence. Then, in our meditation practice, we also teach people before the meditation to ask 4 questions. Who am I? What do I want? What's my purpose? And what am I grateful for? Those 4 questions should set the template to invite the coincidences in your life. So every coincidence that somehow hints at answering those 4 questions, those are the coincidences that are opportunities for you. Because ultimately it's not that you want the Mercedes or a fancy house. Ultimately, you want to know who you are, what you really want, which could include the Mercedes or the fancy house. But, after a while, you can say, been there, done that. But who am I? What do I want? What's my purpose? What I want should be in alignment with my purpose. Okay, so my purpose actually should serve what I want. Okay, and then what am I grateful for, which opens the door to abundance consciousness. There's a sequence to those questions. As I've said, you don't need to know the answers to the questions. The answers are the synchronicities in response to those questions.
Do you find that the question, what do I want, it changes as you expand in awareness?
Yes. What I want, in the beginning is all about the physical body, survival, safety, and then it's about, your ego satisfactions, fame, fortune, power, approval, all of that, which is all fine. It's part of our growth. And then it changes into wanting love and relationships, and then, it's wanting to be centered and peaceful, and then to have access to intuition and creativity, and ultimately to experience enlightenment and the higher stages of consciousness. It's not that the earlier what I want disappears. The earlier is included and transcended. So you don't lose it, you include it, and you also transcend it. It becomes not that important anymore because you have it.
Does Dharma work in the same way?
Does Dharma work in the same way? Dharma is a very complicated concept. Usually when I speak about Dharma, I talk about life purpose. So life purpose is, yes, usually about, what are your skills, what are your strengths, what are your talents, are you using them? This is how I speak about Dharma and the 7 spiritual laws. But in the big scheme, Dharma is a very, very refined and, how should I put it? Dharma is a very, very big idea, because ultimately there's only one purpose, okay, and that is enlightenment. That's the only purpose that we are incarnated. So we incarnate as a result of karma, and then, there are only 2 or 3 things that you can do with karma, which creates desire, of course. And one is that you can fulfill the desire, which some people are able to, some through hard work, exacting plans, discipline. They fulfill the desire, but they also get a heart attack, or they get divorced, or their kids go into drugs. They get into trouble, in short, because they're stressed. Okay, that's one way to fulfill desire. The second is to fulfill desire through the effortless spontaneity that comes from synchronicity, spiritual way. As you fulfill those desires, as I said, they get included and transcended. So you move to ultimately wanting to experience enlightenment and nothing else. But you can also transform your karma. You can take a episode or experience that is not good for you, or you think is not good for you, and do something. You missed the plane, you read the book. Okay, that's transformation. And then finally, you can transcend. That means you are only seeking higher consciousness and enlightenment. So, at least according to how I understand, the soul keeps recycling or reincarnating through cosmic time till it, to use a simple expression, it washes away karma with each cycle. And it washes in those ways, either fulfilling it or, but every time you experience karma, even when you pay a karmic debt, like you get a heart attack, then you should think of that as an opportunity to expand your consciousness. So if you start to do that, then the only role of this recycling or this karma is ultimately to find out who you are, which is you're the infinite being manifesting the universe.
So we should appreciate struggle when it shows up in our life.
Yeah, we shouldn't seek it. Well, that would be silly. That's a lot of religious traditions say, suffering. If you don't have suffering, you'll never get enlightened. I don't think you should seek it, but when it comes, you should question what it is, and you shouldn't have to struggle through it if you find the higher purpose in it. That includes our shadow energies and all of that. If you find that you say everyone has some kind of shadow energy, whether it's addiction or, lying or whatever, deceit, that energy has a gift in it for you. And that you should see, how can I put this to higher purpose?
What do you think about the energy of the shadow of overworking? So it's like the people who think that they need to work hard to be successful and are constantly burning out.
Yeah, it's the epidemic of our time, the overwork, getting burnt out, etc. I work a lot. I'm busy, very busy. But it's not the work itself. It is first of all, how your health is. I've never taken medication in my life that I can remember. Because I'm detached from outcome, it doesn't really matter if I don't get what I don't get done. So, for an outsider, I could be working very heavily. But from inside, I know that I'm not. I'm just going with the flow. So it's the attitude more than anything else. So when we say, what do you want? I think another question that can be added on, or it comes as you grow, is why do you want what you want? Because, if you really ask yourself that, many things that you say you want, you may not want.
I think the Rolling Stones...
What's the motivation?
What's the motivation? What is the Rolling Stones song that they sang? You don't always get what you want, but you get what you need.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. The idea for synchrodestiny, where did that originate from?
Well, in my early days with Maharishi, we always spoke about spontaneous fulfillment of desire. We always spoke about these principles of synchronicity. We always spoke about what the spiritual traditions call the state of grace. Maharishi's favorite word was support of the laws of nature, which didn't mean a lot to a lot of people because, when they think of laws of nature, they think of gravity or electromagnetism, which are also the laws of nature. But these are the real laws of nature because these are the principles of unmanifest becoming manifest. So that was a big phrase with us, support of the laws of nature. The laws of nature are supporting you because you are in alignment with the laws of nature. And so the idea of writing a book came to me when I realized that the 7 Mahavakyas that we use, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Satchitananda, Sankalp, Shiva Shakti, all these, that Moksha, that these words actually were sutras, in a sense, to move you from local to non-local. The local is where resistance is the ego identity. The non-local is where synchronicity or flow is. So then I thought I should do a book which became The Spontaneous Fulfillment of Desire in America. In other countries it was called Synchrodestiny. So that's how we got the name. There's no such name. We made it up, combining the idea of destiny with synchronicity. But the idea came through these 7 very important principles, which are different ways, if you pay attention, of shifting from local to non-local. Local is resistance because of ego, and non-local is synchronicity because it's the field of correlation, infinite correlation.
And what is one way that we can right now, today, practice synchrodestiny?
Well, that's a tall order to have one way, but I would say...
You can give 3.
No, one way would be rest in existence, rest in awareness, rest in being. Our ground state is Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means existence. We exist, right? Nobody can say I don't exist. The second is awareness. Awareness, we're aware. Nobody can say they're not aware. Okay, and the third is Ananda, which is joy. Okay, so, which is also being. Being is joy, full. So, best example is a baby. Okay, so baby, before the baby is conditioned, exists, is aware. Okay, there's just awareness. There's, the baby doesn't say I'm Deepak or I'm going to be a millionaire or whatever, or I want. So it's just aware. And the third thing, the baby is joyful as a result of being. If we can cultivate that ground state, and that's the state of flow. And one should live from that state. Then you are like a stem cell. You're a pluripotential field of infinite possibilities. You can manifest anything.
I hear you saying it's shifting from that perspective and shifting also from local to non-local. Mm-hmm. So what is one way today that we can, in the midst of struggle, shift our perspective so we can experience that openness?
You can shift that any time by being aware of the observer within you that is in the midst of changing observations. So you can shift to who's asking the question, who's wanting this, who's watching this. You can also shift it by shifting to space. The space between our thoughts, the space between our breath, the space between movement in yoga, the space between objects. In Sanskrit, that's called Chittakash, Chidakash. It's the infinite space, but it's also consciousness. So, you can move into it anytime.
Has there been one moment today already where you've shifted your perspective?
I'm always in that space these days.
Thank you, Deepak, so much for your time. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for all of your insight.
Thank you very much.
Wow. I hope that was as enlightening and inspiring for you as it was for me. As a Vedic master for the Chopra Center, I've been exposed to these teachings many times over. I really do live my life according to the 7 spiritual laws Deepak talked about today. And still, I learned things from our conversation here that I didn't already know, and I hope the same is true for you. Which brings me to that special something I promised each of you. I was reminded during our conversation with Deepak about the concept of synchrodestiny and how its principles are so integral to our ability to live our lives with grace and ease. Synchrodestiny gives you the tools necessary to live the 7 spiritual laws of success, not just when things are going well, and it's relatively easy to do so, but especially when we face difficult or uncertain times. Because understanding the principles of synchrodestiny means understanding that even the setbacks or challenges you face in life are clues that the universe is always sending to help you choose a better path. A path that's more consistent with the life you really want. Now, I know that probably sounds easier said than done. I, too, believed in the concept of synchrodestiny for a long time before I really understood how to live it. And that's understandable because, as Deepak mentioned, we're not taught how to stay in that space. It's not something our society or our culture reinforces. In fact, there's tremendous social pressure for us to keep pushing, keep forcing outcomes, and keep trying to control situations, especially the difficult ones. But while all this might not come naturally to you, it's a skill that can be learned. And when you learn it, it's what finally frees you. To take control of your life, tap into your own creativity, and begin to fulfill your desires effortlessly. To finally break free from the pressure, the problems, and the feeling as if your life is a series of reactions to random, unlucky circumstances. Which is exactly what Deepak and all of us at the Chopra Center are so committed to helping you do. So if you're ready to free yourself from the cycle of stress, struggle, and frustration you've been experiencing, and experience instead what spontaneous, effortless fulfillment of your desires feels like, we'd like to support you in every way possible. At the Chopra Center, we offer a 5-week online course created by Deepak called Synchrodestiny. We're offering it one last time this year, starting Tuesday, October 7th. And we're so pleased to be able to give you first access to it before it gets released to anyone else, simply because you joined us here today. And to be able to give it to you at a fantastic value. We even have some additional gifts we'd like to give you to support you on your journey towards a life of less stress and more success that I'll tell you more about in just a minute. So if you found what we discussed today resonated with you, and you're ready to harness the power of synchrodestiny to help you get from where you are now to where you really want to go, this is a wonderful opportunity for you to master its principles. I can say that from personal experience because my own introduction to synchrodestiny is exactly what allowed me to transition out of a career that had always offered me terrific opportunities but was becoming increasingly challenging to one of the best decisions I ever made to come work here at the Chopra Center. So I'm personally connected to the course, and I'll be delighted to tell you a little more about what you'll discover during each of its 5 weeks. And even more importantly, I'll describe to you the immediate breakthroughs you can expect to experience each week as you move through it. So if you're in front of your computer right now, please open a new tab in your web browser and go to www.synchrodestinycourse.com. That's www.synchrodestinycourse.com. Or simply click on the link right beneath the audio player on your screen. And don't worry if you can't go to the page right now, you can just keep listening, and I'll talk you through everything you need to know. Now scroll down to the section titled Session 1, and we'll walk through exactly what you'll receive when you participate in Synchrodestiny. The course is broken into 5 sessions, 1 per week, with each new session building upon the last and expanding your understanding of the Synchrodestiny principles while also supporting you and practically integrating them into your life. In Session 1, The Promise of Synchrodestiny, Deepak introduces you to the core principles and guides you in an exploration of the nature of consciousness. And you'll begin to harness the power of intention and desire and learn to shift your state of consciousness to experience more love, peace, abundance, and joy. People who've taken this course before you say that even as early as week 1, they begin to feel less stressed and more present. Take Candy M, for example, a graduate who wrote in and told us this. A profound peace and calm has become a huge part of my daily life, and I find myself more in harmony with the world around me. And that's just after week 1. In session 2, Pathways to Enlightenment, Deepak will begin to teach you how to use the Synchrodestiny Sutras as a daily practice, helping you transform your intentions from mere possibilities into realities. After the second week, course participants often report feeling more centered, focused, and ready to create. They also say they have more clarity and direction, like Jan J., who told us, I've gained so much clarity and a deeper understanding of my true destiny. I no longer feel that life is a battle and that the only way to achieve is to struggle down the long, hard road, which may or may not be winding in the right direction. In session 3, The Nature of the Soul, Deepak will focus on the part of your consciousness that exists beyond both body and mind, the place of infinite creativity and possibility. You'll also explore your own inner dialogue and its role in your ability to create what you want in life. At this point, it's common for people to say ideas are more easily generated and opportunities are cropping up in their life that they hadn't noticed before. Rosemary H., a very recent graduate, described it as feeling as though much has fallen into place. I experience a deeper sense of peace and contentment and often feel as though I'm in a stream or flow of consciousness. Session 4, Expanding Awareness, is dedicated to helping you free yourself from old limiting patterns so that you can experience your full potential as a magnificent co-creator with the universe. Deepak will share powerful practices for breaking free from conditioned beliefs and cultivating emotional freedom. After the 4th week, people often report experiencing more joy and a greater sense of equanimity. Joan C. reported that by week 4, she'd experienced countless improvements and explained, I still have the occasional stress moment or frustration, but deal with it so much quicker and better now. I really notice the peace and love that shines through me, and it brings happiness and peace to those around me too. And in session 5, Living Synchrodestiny, Deepak will guide you in putting the tools and principles of synchrodestiny into daily practice in your life. You'll learn how to cultivate a state of restful, centered awareness that makes it possible to create with effortless ease. Here's a wonderful example of what our course graduates say after completing this 5th and final week of Synchrodestiny. Since taking the course and applying its principles, I've experienced a reduction in my anxiety and a sense of equanimity and peace that I carry with me throughout the day, even when other stressors arise. I believed in synchronicity prior to the course, but Synchrodestiny allowed me to be more aware of the moments of grace that are a constant part of my life. In fact, I truly believe that Synchrodestiny was one of those moments of grace. I am so grateful for this gift. And of course, we extend our sincere thanks to Heather A. for sharing that feedback with us. Now, if you'll keep scrolling down the page just a bit further, I'd like to show you the comprehensive set of course materials and resources you'll also receive to help you integrate the Synchrodestiny principles into your life. These resources include Deepak Chopra's ebook, The Spontaneous Fulfillment of Desire, an exclusive Ask Deepak section of our online learning site so you can receive expert advice and answers to your questions, private discussion forums so you can share your experience and receive support from others on the same journey, a library of session resources, including articles, journal prompts, meditations, and videos for download, a course overview that includes a more detailed description of what will be covered each week, These materials were all expertly designed to support your individual journey through the course, as well as create a safe community where you can share your wins, your struggles, and seek support from other like-minded individuals on a similar path. For those of you who know this opportunity is right for you and who are ready to reserve your place in the course, all you have to do is simply scroll down a bit on your screen to where it says 2 ways to register. And you'll see there are 2 payment options, which we created in an effort to make this course accessible to nearly everyone. Simply select the payment option that works best for you and follow the easy steps to reserve your spot. And because it will be extremely helpful to us as we plan our resources to know how many of you will participate, we're offering an incentive to those of you who register by Tuesday, September 23rd at midnight Pacific time. It's 3 highly powerful resources that will support you in discovering your unique gifts and realizing your absolute highest potential. We've called it the Ultimate Abundance and Prosperity Package, and I'm excited to tell you what it includes. The internationally acclaimed Chopra Center 21-Day Meditation Challenge, Creating Abundance. In this recording, Deepak will expertly guide you to the meaning of true abundance and the source from which it springs, revealing how consciousness and mind affect its flow so that you can create massive prosperity in your life. The Creating Music and Mantra series. These powerful musical selections and life-affirming thoughts from Deepak will enhance your connection to your true self and result in a personal declaration of intention for the day. Daily practice will produce a deep awareness of the many meaningful coincidences occurring for your ultimate prosperity. The 21 Days of Inspiration ebook. Based on the principles of Deepak's best-selling book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, the ebook focuses on 1 timeless spiritual law per day for 21 days so you can experience the transformational effect the power of focus has on your life and your relationship to abundance and prosperity. Together, these 3 resources have a combined value of $100. And you'll receive them at no charge when you register for Synchrodestiny by midnight Pacific time on September 23rd. So again, there are 2 options for registering. The 5-week Synchrodestiny course plus all of the supporting materials is $397. And we've created 2 simple payment options designed to support as many of you as possible. So simply select the one that works best for you and secure your place in the final Synchrodestiny course of 2014. You know, there was a time not so long ago when the only way to participate in this course was to spend thousands of dollars and several days of time traveling to San Diego where Synchrodestiny is taught live. And now, thanks to Deepak's vision around the creation of Chopra Online, anyone, anywhere who has access to a simple internet connection can harness the infinite power of Synchrodestiny. And that pleases me so much because I know that it's exactly the right time for many of you to finally set down your burden of striving and experience the profound sense of fulfillment and peace that comes from doing less and having more. I'm so grateful to Deepak Chopra and to all of you for being here with me today. And I look forward to being with you again very soon. Namaste.